The best advice is find a great institution of higher learning, find one that has the right price, shop around. We've always encouraged young people, take a shot, go for it, take a risk, get the education, borrow money if you have to for your parents, start a business.
Borrow money if you have to from your parents. Perhaps one of them runs an automobile company. Mitt Romney's advice on paying for a college education in this country. Shop around. Mom and Dad will set you up. Why haven't you just asked them already? What's your problem? James Carville and Stan Greenberg have a new book out, conveniently timed to try to make this next election all about pocketbook issues like affording college. Pocketbook issues like all the stuff that is central to the existence and the disappearance of the middle class in this country, with trademark subtlety. The new book is called It's the Middle Class Stupid. And Mr. James Carville joins us here now for the interview. James Carville, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here, Rachel.
You were saying when we were playing that clip that issues like that student loan thing resonate with people more than people think they do. Do you think the Beltway doesn't think issues like that resonate?
But I don't think that they do. I think it's a big mistake. First of all, they completely understand that Romney would be for letting the banks make more money. Secondly, when you talk about what the middle class, or how do you regrow the middle class, how do you bring it back, education is at the forefront. They understand that. I grew up, you know, that was the ticket. That was a ticket to prosperity. If you got an education, you knew that that was going to pay for itself. That was the best investment that you can make. Now, not so sure. Sometimes, you know, we find out these kids have more debt than the education is worth, and we got to change that. And this kind of thing, I think this is a good issue. I think it's a good political issue. I think it'll resonate with people out there, and I think they'll understand it. I really do.
How do we end up? One of the things you write about in the new book is this idea that Democrats have to take themselves take the issue of programs like Social Security and Medicare very, very seriously, that they need to be seen as uncompromising defenders of those programs which the middle class depends on. How did we end up with the sort of political center of gravity in Washington being where Democrats are being willing to question those programs? Some Democrats are willing to trade away security on those programs.
Because we make a error. I think we make a fundamental error, because we look at the biggest problem we have in the country is the deficit. So if you look at that, you say, well, let's cut entitlements because the deficit is the biggest problem. If you say the biggest problem we have in a country is the middle class is shrinking, and it would clearly shrink if the deficit got too high and the country was burdened with debt, but that would lead you to the conclusion, let's cut health care costs. If you cut health care costs, that's the easiest way to cut the deficit. But no one the Washington consensus is we have to cut entitlements. Let's know, and the real truth of the matter is that if you cut health care costs, the cost of the entitlements will go down with that. You have people that when people do focus groups, and political people all come back and say the same thing. People are breaking down crying. They're breaking down crime. People say the same thing. I'm one disease away from the end. They're taking children back in their house. They're changing jobs. People are starting like lawnmower services when they're 55 years old. And the Washington consensus is aha, this person can't have Medicare. Or the Washington consensus is cut their Social Security. Look, if you're a cable TV contributor, I don't care. I'm 67 and a half. I'm glad to work another year pontificating. If I'm a shrimper or a hotel maid, I might have a little different idea about going a little bit deeper.
Specifically, on that issue, so healthcare costs coming down would have this huge impact on the deficit.
Right.
And in the Beltway right now, all they ever talk about is the deficit. That's been true for a very long time.
Right.
So is part of the reason Democrats don't get any credit for having passed health reform that they haven't sold it to the Beltway chattering class as anti-deficit policymaking?
Well, but if you sell it, the deficit is an important issue. By the way, why would anybody that cared about the deficit vote for a Republican? Go look at the deficit among the Democrats and Republicans. There's no reason that we need to concede that. As I recall, the last time the budget was in surplus, it was under a Democratic president. But if you start from the vantage point of how do we rebuild the middle class, and you went to Social Security and you said, we're going to do something in Social Security. We might cut a benefit here or there. We might do some other things, but this is to save Social Security. The middle class would say, okay, I understand that. But if you go to them, as the elites in Washington want to do, and says, look, we started some wars we shouldn't have started. We got out of hand with some tax cuts. We had to bail out some banks, and we had to do stuff like that. So you be a good American, and we're going to cut the Social Security that you paid into so we can pay for all of the garbage that we did. And people say, no, I don't want to do that. And then the conclusion is that they're selfish. No, they're just not stupid. They'll pay for Social Security if it's to strengthen Social Security for their retirement. They won't pay for mistakes that Washington made in the past.
I would tell you, though, I would feel like, as a person who has as much of a romantic feeling about Social Security as anybody else, I would feel a lot more willing to talk about tinkering with Social Security in any way if I didn't feel like there was a guy with a hockey mask and a chainsaw out on the other side who was looking for any opening to kill it. I feel like if Democrats start saying, yeah, we'll tinker with it around the edges right now, Republicans will figure out a way to get rid of it. I mean, they're trying to privatize it, they're trying to privatize Medicare, they're trying to get rid of everything. Why don't Democrats concede any ground on it?
Well, the elderly poverty rate in the United States in 1965 was 30%. We went to COLAs and we did improve Social Security. Today it's about 9.5%, even in the middle of a recession. That is the act of a just and moral nation. That is a moral act. That is the God in heaven, the God of the Catholic Church that I'm in, would be very proud and very happy about that. Very, very. About 2/3 the number of old people in this country that go to bed cold or hungry has been reduced. Is a really staggering accomplishment in the United States. We should be very proud of that.
And I think Democrats' political response to that now should be, like Nancy Pelosi said about Medicare, we do have a plan on Social Security. It's called Social Security. Yeah. We stand for it. We'll defend it, and we're not going to let anybody.
What I'm saying is that if you said you were going to do something to strengthen Social Security, people would say, well, okay, that makes sense. What they're not willing to do is cut Social Security to reduce the other part of the deficit.
Yeah. In terms of the overall strategy for the election in November, if the election is about the disappearance of the middle class and the challenges of the middle class, what does that mean the specific issues are that these candidates will be running ads on and competing on right down to the wire in November?
Well, I mean, there's two things that come to mind. Of course, rising health care costs. In education, or what the middle class says, are the two things that matter most to them that they see. Then how do we become more competitive? They're completely into that. They're not. It's not like that. But what they want is they want somebody to come up with a plan to say this is going to help rebuild the middle class. They were kind of against the stimulus because they thought it was just throwing money to problems. If you would have done many of the same things and said, this is a program to help rebuild the middle class, we need to build infrastructure in this country to make us more competitive, that we can get more people to work, they would support that. They would support that instantly. What they're looking for is some
Don't talk about it in terms of its macro goals for the economy.
No.
Just talk about the direct...
Talk about the long-term benefit to the middle class. And they will go along with that. But it's just the way that they think. But they know how much trouble they're in. They know what they're having to do, and they want somebody to show them that there's a way out. And if the person that does that is going to be rewarded.
Yeah. Democratic strategist James Carville, the leading strategist in Bill Clinton's presidential campaign, co-author of the new book, It's the Middle Class. Stupid. I'm not taking it personally. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.